Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Bonjour, and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with me, your host, Rosa DeCandia. Well, my friends, thank you again for joining me. We don't have many chapters left, but speaking of the chapters, the next few chapters are quite short. So I've decided that this particular episode is going to be chapter 19 and 20 together. They're really short, and I kind of feel like for me to do a 10-minute video, it's kind of meh. So I can do 2 chapters probably in 20 minutes. So without any further ado, let's go back to The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by l.Frank. And now we proceed to Chapter 19, Attacked by the Fighting Trees. How? The next morning, Dorothy kissed the pretty green girl goodbye, and they all shook hands with the soldier with the green whiskers, who had walked with them as far as the gate. When the guardian at the gate saw them again, he wondered greatly that they could leave the beautiful city to get into new trouble. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? But they're all feeling a little antsy. I mean, the Scarecrow is, and neither is the Woodman, but the Lion and Dorothy are. She wants to go home. But he at once unlocked their spectacles, which he put back into the green box, and gave them many good wishes to carry with them. You are now our ruler, he said to the Scarecrow, so you must come back to us as soon as possible. I certainly shall if I am able, the Scarecrow replied, but I must help Dorothy to get home first. See, he's so loyal. I appreciate that. Being an Italian chick from Jersey, we're all about loyalty. As Dorothy bade the good-natured guardian a last farewell, she said, I have been very kindly treated in your lovely city, and everyone has been good to me. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. Don't try, my dear, he answered. We should like to keep you with us, but if it is your wish to return to Kansas, I hope you will find a way. He then opened the gate of the outer wall, and they walked forth and started upon their journey. The sun shone brightly as our friends turned their faces toward the land of the South. They were all in the best of spirits and laughed and chatted together. Dorothy was once more filled with the hope of getting home, and the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were glad to be of use of her. You see, they're being of service. When you're of service, that's how you find a lot of joy. As for the Lion, he sniffed the fresh air with delight and whisked his tail from side to side in pure joy at being in the country again, while Toto ran around them and chased the moths and butterflies, barking merrily all the time. City life does not agree with me at all, remarked the Lion, as they walked along at a brisk pace. I have lost much flesh since I lived there, and now I am anxious for a chance to show the other beasts how courageous I have grown. They now turned and took a last look at the Emerald City. All they could see was a mass of towers and steeples beyond the green walls, and high up above everything, the spires and dome of the Palace of Oz. Oz was not such a bad wizard after all, said the Tin Woodman, as he felt his heart rattling around in his breast. He knew how to give me brains, and very good brains too, said the Scarecrow. If Oz had taken a dose of the same courage he gave me, added the Lion, he would have been a brave man. Dorothy said nothing. Oz had not kept the promise he made her, but he had done his best, so she forgave him. As he said, he was a good man, even if he was a bad wizard. See, she got over her bitterness, and that's good, even though he could not fulfill her promise. He did try, though. He did try. At least, you know what? She forgave him, because if she didn't, it would just be bitterness that doesn't serve her. So that's a good lesson. Don't hold on to that shit. It's like poison, because you know what? Forgiving someone, it's not for them. It's for yourself. Trust me. Trust me on that. The first day's journey was through the green fields and bright flowers that stretched about the Emerald City on every side. They slept that night on the grass with nothing but the stars over them, and they rested very well indeed. In the morning, they must have felt good, because they've been so used to being out traveling that they probably felt so good that they're out in the wide open spaces. You know what I'm saying? Who doesn't want to sleep under the stars? I'd love to sleep under a starry night. Oh, God, that's a nice goal. Okay. In the morning, they traveled on until they came to a thick wood. There was no way of going around it, for it seemed to extend to the right and left as far as they could see. And besides, they did not dare change the direction of their journey for fear of getting lost. We know how that goes with these guys, because there's no maps. That's one thing that the Scarecrow needs to do. He needs to ask the winged monkeys to put some maps down. So they looked for the place where it would be easiest to get into the forest. The Scarecrow, who was in the lead, finally discovered a big tree with such wide-spreading branches that there was room for the party to pass underneath. So he walked forward to the tree. But just as he came under the first branches, they bent down and twined around him, and the next minute he was raised from the ground and flung headlong among his fellow travelers. How rude, how rude. The trees are actually in the movie, so they're grabbing the travelers. This did not hurt the Scarecrow, but it surprised him, and he looked rather dizzy when Dorothy picked him up. Here is another space between the trees called the lion. Let me try it first, said the Scarecrow, for it doesn't hurt me to get thrown about. He walked up to another tree as he spoke, but its branches immediately seized him and tossed him back again. This is strange, exclaimed Dorothy. What shall we do? The trees seem to have made up their minds to fight us and stop our journey, remarked the lion. And yet here we go, another obstacle. I believe I will try it myself, said the woodman, and shouldering his axe, he marched up to the first tree that had handled the Scarecrow so roughly. When a big branch bent down to seize him, the woodman chopped at it so fiercely that he cut it into two. At once, the tree began shaking all its branches as if in pain, and the Tin Woodman passed safely under it. Come on, he shouted to the others. Be quick. They all ran forward and passed under the tree without injury, except Toto, who was caught by a small branch and shaken until he howled. But the woodman promptly chopped off the branch and set the little dog free. The other trees of the forest did nothing to keep them back. So they made up their minds that only the first row of trees could bend down their branches, and that probably these were the policemen of the forest, and given this wonderful power in order to keep the strangers out of it. Oh my God, imagine that, like you're walking through a forest and like going on hikes in California, and all of a sudden a tree bends down and grabs you and then throws you somewhere so you can't enter. Oof, I mean, it's a good form of defense though, smart form of defense. The four travelers walked with ease through the trees until they came to the farther edge of the wood. Then, to their surprise, they found before them a high wall, which seemed to be made of white china. It was smooth, like the surface of a dish, and higher than their heads. What shall we do now? Asked Dorothy. I will make a ladder, said the Tin Woodman, for we certainly must climb over the wall. Okay, so I told you that was a short chapter. Okay, these guys are just constantly freaking doing nothing but having problems with their journey. But you see, the Tin Woodman again stepped up to the plate. It's like his acts of courage. I did think that's funny. I think I said that on the podcast. It's his acts of courage. It's all he does. He's smart. I mean, the Tin Woodman and his axe, it's become like a big thing. The fighting trees, if I'm not incorrect, the trees are in the movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch the movie. I'm sure you've seen it, but remember the trees, it's kind of scary. It's dark and ominous. I mean, that's their journey. Everything there is, it's always something dark and ominous. And now there's a Great Wall of China. But all I want to say in a quick woo-woo for that is that the fact that they all work together, they're all staying positive, they're getting through it, and they're not letting anything deter them from getting Dorothy back to Kansas. And you know what? You hear the lion, how he's not so happy with living in the city, so we have a little unrest. So you know what? I do think it's good they're getting out. They're going to help Dorothy, and they're also going to find their ways, I feel like. But let's see what happens in the next chapter. Like I said, this chapter was kind of uneventful. It's just showing they're not being deterred. They had a physical obstacle, right? The trees, they've had many physical obstacles. And the Tin Woodman has helped yet again, but they've gotten through it. And now they go on to the next, which is now a Great Wall of China. I think that's what this is about, you know, the Great Wall of China. So this is a Great Wall of actual China. So now, oy vey. Okay, let's proceed to Chapter 20, the Dainty China Country. While the woodman was making a ladder from wood, which he found in the forest, Dorothy lay down and slept. Of course, she's always sleeping. She's human. This woodman does it all. I'm telling you, he should have his own damn TV show, On the Road with the Woodman. He can make tiny houses. He can do everything. He does it all. And he can kill wolves. He can kill trees. He can do it all. For she was tired by the long walk. The lion also curled himself up to sleep, and Toto lay beside him. The Scarecrow watched the woodman while he worked and said to him, "I cannot think why this wall is here, nor what it is made of." "Rest your brains and do not worry about the wall," replied the woodman. "When we have climbed over it, we shall know what is on the other side." How true. He's like, don't worry about something. When we get there, and we're gonna deal with it when we get there. And I like that because you know what? You don't want to put that worry into the universe because you don't know what's going to be on the other side. So just calm your jets, Scarecrow. I like that. That was very good advice. Don't worry about it. When we get there and climb over, we'll deal with it. After a time, the ladder was finished. It looked clumsy. Who cares? He built a friggin' ladder at a short amount of time. But the Tin Woodman was sure it was strong and would answer their purpose. The Scarecrow waked Dorothy and the Lion and Toto and told them that the ladder was ready. The Scarecrow climbed up the ladder first, but he was so awkward that Dorothy had to follow close behind and keep him from falling off. When he got his head over the top of the wall, the Scarecrow said, "Oh my!" "Go on," exclaimed Dorothy. So the Scarecrow climbed farther up and sat down on the top of the wall, and Dorothy put her head over and cried, "Oh my!" just as the Scarecrow had done. Then Toto came up and immediately began to bark. But Dorothy made him be still. The Lion climbed the ladder next, and the Tin Woodman came last. But both of them cried, "Oh my!" as soon as they looked over the wall. When they were all sitting in a row on the top of the wall, they looked down and saw a strange sight. Before them was a great stretch of country, having a floor as smooth and shining and white as the bottom of a big platter. Scattered around were many houses made entirely of china and painted in the brightest colors. These houses were quite small, the biggest of them reaching only as high as Dorothy's waist. There were also pretty little barns with china fences around them, and many cows and sheep and horses and pigs and chickens, all made of china, were standing about in groups. So this actually is a country made of China. So we're in the country of China. I don't know what was going on at this time. It's kind of interesting, like with the Great Wall of China and him writing this book. But the strangest of all were the people who lived in this queer country. There were milkmaids and shepherdesses with brightly colored bodices and golden spots all over their gowns, and princesses with most gorgeous frocks of silver and gold and purple, and shepherds dressed in knee breeches with pink and yellow and blue stripes down them and golden buckles on their shoes, and princes with jeweled crowns upon their heads. Not a bad place, wearing ermine robes and satin doublets, and funny clowns in ruffled gowns with round red spots upon their cheeks and tall pointed caps. And strangest of all, could it get more strange? These people were all made of china, even to their clothes, and were so small that the tallest of them was no higher than Dorothy's knee. What the hell is going on? How can you move if you're china? I mean, I don't get it. No one did so much as look at the travelers at first, except one little purple china dog with an extra large head, which came to the wall and barked at them in a tiny voice, afterwards running away again. "How should we get down?" asked Dorothy. They found the ladder so heavy they could not pull it up. So the Scarecrow fell off the wall, and the others jumped down upon him so that the hard floor would not hurt their feet. That makes sense. And you don't want to crack the china. I mean, especially the Tin Woodman. I mean, he's made of tin. Of course, they took pains not to light on his head and get the pins in their feet. When all was safely down, they picked up the Scarecrow, whose body was quite flattened out, and patted his straw into shape again. These are the kind of friends you need in life, let me tell you. "We must cross this strange place in order to get to the other side," said Dorothy. "Well, what are you, friggin' Einstein?" "Thanks, Dorothy. We realize that. For it would be unwise for us to go any other way except due south." They began walking through the country of the China people, and the first thing they came to was a China milkmaid milking a China cow. As they drew near, the cow suddenly gave a kick and kicked over the stool, the pail, and even the milkmaid herself, and all fell on the china ground with a great clatter. Arose such a clatter. Oh my God, that reminds me of the Santa Claus the movie. I'm not going to go on that tangent. Dorothy was shocked to see that the cow had broken a leg off, and that the pail was lying in several small pieces, while the poor milkmaid had a nick in her left elbow. "There," cried the milkmaid angrily. "See what you have done? My cow has broken a leg, and I must take it to the mender's shop and have it glued on again. What do you mean by coming here and frightening my cow?" "I'm very sorry," returned Dorothy. "Please forgive us." But the pretty milkmaid was much too vexed to make any answer. She picked up the leg sulkily and led her cow away. Oh my God, poor milkmaid. And she even got nicked. The poor animal limping on 3 legs. As she left them, the milkmaid cast many reproachful glances over her shoulder at the clumsy strangers, holding her nicked elbow close to her side. Dorothy was quite grieved at this mishap. "We must be very careful here," said the kind-hearted woodman. "I'm surprised he's not crying. Or we may hurt these pretty little people so they will never get over it." Well, maybe you should cry. Maybe he shouldn't. A little farther on, Dorothy met a most beautifully dressed young princess who stopped short as she saw the strangers and started to run away. Dorothy wanted to see more of the princess, so she ran after her. But the China girl cried out, "Don't chase me! Don't chase me!" She had such a frightened little voice that Dorothy stopped and said, "Why not?" "Because," answered the princess, also stopping a safe distance away, "if I run, I may fall down and break myself." "But could you not be mended?" asked the little girl. "Oh, yes, but one is never so pretty after being mended, you know," replied the princess. "So true, so true. See? Yeah, see?" "Oh, I suppose not," said Dorothy. "Now, there is Mr. Joker, one of our clowns," continued the China lady, "who is always trying to stand upon his head. He has broken himself so often that he is mended in 100 places and doesn't look at all pretty. Here he comes now, so you can see for yourself. Maybe he should be on that plastic surgery show, Botched. You know what I'm saying?" That was kind of funny. Indeed, a jolly little clown came walking toward him. See, but he's not upset the fact that he doesn't look pretty. He's just a jolly little clown. And Dorothy could see that in spite of his pretty clothes of red and yellow and green, he was completely covered with cracks, running every which way and showing plainly that he had been mended in many places. The clown put his hands in his pockets, and after puffing out his cheeks and nodding his head at them saucily, he said, "My lady fair, why do you stare at poor old Mr. Joker? You're quite as stiff and prim as if you'd eaten up a poker." "Be quiet, sir," said the princess. "Can't you see these are strangers and should be treated with respect?" "Well, that's respect, I expect," declared the clown, and immediately stood upon his head. "Don't mind Mr. Joker," said the princess to Dorothy. "He is considerably cracked on his head, and that makes him foolish." "Or maybe he's not so foolish," he said. "That respect I expect." They were all looking to him, and he's just saying, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything rude, but you're talking badly about me and talking about how ugly I am because I have all these cracks, bitch." You know what I'm saying? So maybe he's not as cracked. It's those loony, the ones that people think are so loony, they're actually tapped in. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Anyway, "Oh, I don't mind him a bit," said Dorothy. "But you are so beautiful," she continued, "that I am sure I could love you dearly. Won't you let me carry you back to Kansas and stand you on Aunt Em's mantle? I could carry you in my basket." "That would make me very unhappy," answered the China princess. "You see, here in our country, we live contentedly and can talk and move around as we please. But whenever any of us are taken away, our joints at once stiffen and we can only stand straight and look pretty. Of course, that is all that is expected of us when we are on mantles and cabinets and drawing room tables, but our lives are much pleasanter here in our own country." Good point. I love that. She's like, "Bitch, you ain't taking me anywhere. This is where I live. A, you gotta pay for me, okay? And B, I don't want to stand on no shelf looking at you, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, who never smiles in gray Kansas." Good for Princess. Good for the Princess of China. "I would not make you unhappy for all the world," exclaimed Dorothy, "so I'll just say goodbye." "Goodbye," replied the princess. They walked carefully through the China country. The little animals and all the people scampered out of their way, fearing the strangers would break them. And after an hour or so, the travelers reached the other side of the country and came to another China wall, another great wall of China. It was not so high as the first, however, and by standing upon the lion's back, they all managed to scramble to the top. Then the lion gathered his legs under him and jumped on the wall, but just as he jumped, he upset a China church with his tail and smashed it all to pieces. "Ooh, that was too bad," said Dorothy. "But really, I think we were lucky in not doing these little people more harm than breaking a cow's leg in a church. They are all so brittle. You better get the frig out, honey." "They are indeed," said the Scarecrow, "and I am thankful I am made of straw and cannot be easily damaged. There are worse things in the world than being a scarecrow." Look at the Scarecrow. So smart, so appreciative, so grateful. Anybody else might be like, "Oh, it sucks to be a scarecrow," but not him. He's finding the good. Okay, this chapter, which I think is just a filler. I gotta be honest with these 2 chapters. I mean, You know, I do the podcast, so I did read them during the podcast, and I'm completely confused. I'm like, where did these two chapters come from? Was l.frank Baum smoking some dope with Lewis Carroll, who wrote, you know, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? Because I'm like, they're short, sweet, but I'm kind of like, I don't get them. However, the Great Wall of China and the China country, I really don't know if historically anything was going on. When was the Great Wall of China built? Obviously not during this time, but I just think it's funny. I guess he's using the Great Wall of China because there's the China Wall. But what I think is, what's interesting with this particular chapter, chapter 20, the thing that I gleaned from it most is that when Dorothy said, "You're so beautiful, I want to take you home," right? I want to take you home with me. The little girl was like, "No. Because then I'm going to stiffen and I'm going to be on your mantle to look beautiful for you, but I'm not going to be living my life." It's kind of like us. It's like, where in your life are you not really honoring yourself? Where you're not being your most authentic self? You see, we've been doing these chapters for a while, and I'm doing all this because I think it's really important for all of us to get back to our most authentic, truest self. And so many of us are afraid to do that because we're told from society that we're not enough, we're not worthy, and that we're not good enough. So of course, we don't want to be authentic selves because we already feel judged from society. But things are changing, and they have to change because now there's more movements for body positivity, for diversity. It's slow going. I'm going to say that it's slow going, but it doesn't mean it's not changing. So what I like about this chapter is the pretty little princess was like, yeah, that's nice that you want to take me in your basket, but I ain't changing for you. And that's kind of like us. You know, who do you hang out with? What situations make you feel like you really can't be who you are? Now, if you're feeling that way amongst your family members, it is terrible because sometimes we do have family members we can't be ourselves with. But I always feel that you can always be your most authentic and truthful self with light and love. Now, some people get just like in people's faces and start arguments over it. And it's unfortunate because sometimes there are family members or friends that are so obstinate, and you could choose to walk away from friends. You can also choose to walk away from family members. Not that I'm promoting that, but my point is this. Is there somewhere or some people that you're around that aren't allowing you, or you're not feeling that you can be comfortably yourself? Because if there are, I'm going to encourage you to rethink your situation. Now, of course, we have to alter our personality when we're in professional situations because we can't be loony, crazy, you know, like woo-hoo party selves when we're in a job or something. We alter that. But when I talk about being true as self, it's just about being the person that you are, your light and love, like sharing your essence. Because who you are when you walk in a room, your light should never be extinguished for anybody or any situation. And it's up to you, I feel, to not douse the light. Because remember, when you walk into a situation, if you're feeling that you are less than, what happens? And if you're feeling like, oh, I got to douse my light for these people because I don't want to intimidate them, they're not telling you to do that. You're allowing them to tell you. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is think about instances or people that you feel that you have to douse your light and cannot be your authentic self with, and why you feel that way. And if you can start finding the confidence to start revealing who you truly are in a sense of with light and love, and also to know that no matter where you go in life, especially with people you choose to be around, you should be your most authentic self. You should have the people that are your tribe, that love you for everything, all the cracks in your china. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the point. It's finding your tribe. And if it's not family members, that's fine too, because your good friends, your tribe, are the family members you choose. And what's beautiful about it is we don't really get to choose our family members, right? But we also get to choose how often we're in their presence. And that's the anything in life. So what I'm going to say is, choose you. Choose your authentic self. Choose your highest self. And you may say to me, Rosie, I don't know what my authentic self is. Well, this is the journey of this as well. Finding your authentic self is following your dreams and visions, tapping into what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what are the things in life that give you a light. Like when you're feeling at your worst, what brings you like inspiration, and start following it. Or just tapping into who you are, getting quiet with yourself. Meditating is a great way to discover who you are. Also being around people that are like-minded, because what happens with people that you're around, people that are like-minded, what happens, they also inspire you and help feed you to follow your dreams and do the things that you want to do. So I think it's very important for all of us at the end of the day to truly, truly search for ourselves. And that's what the journey of life is, to go within. It's because when you go within, right, you realize who you truly are and you allow that light to shine, and then you have this inherent confidence. And as you shine your authentic light, what happens is you become this beacon of light for others. And it not only illuminates your way, I've said this before, but it illuminates the way, the pathway for others. And when other people see that someone else feels good about being their authentic selves, then they say, why can't I be my authentic self? And let's use, okay, I know sometimes I talk badly about social media, but I think social media is great when it's used for good purposes. And let's think about all the people that are using social media for good. Like they're shining the light on their authentic selves. They show themselves body positivity, their diversity, whatever's going on. And it's beautiful because what it does is they shine their light so authentically. They embrace it. They're so beautiful. They're confident. Now what happens, other people see it and they're like, oh, I love it. And now I can shine my light. So my friends, when you shine your light and you are your authentic self and really stay true to who you are and honor yourself, you give permission not only to yourself, but to others to do the same. And it's not only a service to yourself, because you do serve yourself, but it's how can we be of service to others as well? Just like the woodman and the scarecrow said they feel good when they're of service. That's the point. So shining your light, doing all this internal work, my friends, what it does, it not only changes you and your journey, but it's a ripple effect. And anybody who comes into contact with you can be changed for the better. You know, there's that saying, I hope to leave this place a better place than how I found it. So why can't we do that? And the only way that we can do that is by doing the work on ourselves and shining our light and finding our authentic selves and beaming it to the world and loving ourselves and just honoring ourselves and just knowing that we are worthy and enough and beautiful as is. And all we're doing right now, and I said this before, we're just polishing. We're just cleaning up the edges and standing in our truth and authenticity. Imagine if everybody in this world, and I'm not talking about the negative people, because if people really knew the truth of who they were, they wouldn't be nasty. And that's the flip side. We're seeing a lot of people with ugliness right now, especially during this pandemic. And I don't want to talk about specifics like with the masks, not wanting to wear masks or being abusive to people in stores and what have you. It's because they don't like themselves. And that's really the truth. When you abuse other people, it's because you abuse yourself. So remember, it's a reflection of who they are. And when you start loving yourself, when you think of people that do love themselves and spew a lot of light and love, and the people that we look up to that actually are good role models, right? Like I love Oprah Winfrey. She's one of the people that I just think is a great role model. She has done the work. She continues to do the work, and she continues to share with people and enlighten people and help people. And that's my point. It's because she's good with her. So she's like, I'm going to be good with others. Doesn't mean she doesn't challenge people to be their best selves. That's the point. We all have it in us. And the people that are really shining their light, they're not the negatives. They're not the people that are spewing hate. No, they're not. Those are people that don't like themselves inherently. They're putting on a facade. They have got so much bitterness and negative inside that that's what's coming out of them. So let us all be the people of light. This is the time. This is a new coming, a new age. You know, the age of Aquarius? The new age that let us work on ourselves so much that we expand into so much light and love and forgiveness and compassion and empathy that we bring that to the world. And imagine the rippling effect of how much light and love and compassion and empathy that we bring to the world, what it can affect on others. And that's what I'm here to share. So I'm getting a little teary-eyed. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the 2 chapters. We got through them. They're not most exciting chapters, but I do think you can always glean something from something, right? Anytime you read something, if you really put your mind to it and use your brain and use your heart and be courageous and read into it, you can find a lesson, just like the journey of your life, because everything we are going through, my friends, is for our greater good. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. So with that being said, wishing you many blessings. You stay in the peace, you stay in the joy, you stay in the light, you stay in the love, you stay in the authentic place of being who you are and trusting your journey. And don't forget to be your magical self. All right? Lots of love and light. Namaste. Au revoir. Hee hee. Bonjour. It's really au revoir now. Au revoir. A tout à l'heure. I really don't speak French, as you all know. Just a little bit of Italian. Ci vediamo. Ciao ciao. Arrivederci.